tres.
Good day, magandang araw, buen dia. Welcome to Radio Verbum Day, al ritmo de Dios, to the rhythm of God. Today we have another English-speaking guest all the way from UK, United Kingdom. Let us welcome her, our beloved missionary, Isabel Kirby.
Hi, Jolo. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We would like to learn from you, from your experience with God, and from your life too. Would you like to share with us first, how were you before you met Verbal Day? How were you as a child? Where did you grow up? And how was your upbringing?
So I'm from London. I grew up in the suburbs of London in a very normal family for the UK. I have one sister and my parents, and we always lived a life of faith. So I was brought up Catholic. My mum was Catholic and my dad was Anglican. So sometimes I would go to two churches. But faith was very much a part of our life. The church was very important. My mum taught us a lot that faith should be translated into actions, that you should try and do good for others. And I think I had a pretty normal upbringing. I went to school, and then when I was a teenager, I went a little bit away from my faith. Not because I didn't believe in God, but I just wasn't sure that it was really relevant for my day-to-day life. God seemed like a person who was quite far away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this vision of God in the clouds, and then life continues on the ground. And before I met Day, I was in the university. So I went to study chemistry. And I really enjoyed studying and living like an independent life at university. But I think I had questions about whether I wanted to be Catholic for me, or if it was something that my parents had given me, and it was something that I didn't really need to live anymore. So even before I met Day, I was like on a journey to discover a bit more about my faith for me, if I wanted to continue being Catholic. So I was in like a group of Catholic young people, but I was quite a driven student. So I wanted to do well in my studies and then carry on in my career and have a nice house, get married, have kids. I had like a lot of plans for the future. But I was also enjoying like living as a university student as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had two choices actually, to be a Catholic or to be an Anglican.
Uh-huh.
What made you decide to be a Catholic, to choose that path instead?
That's a good question. I don't know if I've ever really, I don't think I ever like made an active decision, because for me, it's true my dad took us sometimes to his Anglican church, but when I was about 7 or 8, my dad converted to become a Catholic. So for me, I don't know, from being very little, I always went to Catholic school. Being Catholic was a really part of our identity, and being Anglican, I always associated with my dad, but it wasn't something that I really associated with me. I think I just felt at home, like in the Catholic Church. All my friends were Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Our family traditions were Catholic, because my granddad, my mum's dad, was Irish. So that is a very big part of Irish culture, to be Catholic. So because I associated a lot being a bit Irish, being Catholic was like a part of that. I never really questioned why I would be Catholic as opposed to being Anglican. But actually, my parents did baptize me as an Anglican. So my sister got baptized Catholic and I was baptized Anglican, because I think they thought that way it was kind of fair.
Okay.
But yeah, just from really young, we always went to Catholic church, and I always felt at home being Catholic. It was like a part of my identity that I guess I didn't really question until I was a teenager and adult. But it wasn't a question of whether I would be Catholic or Anglican. It was more whether I wanted to be Christian or not. But I always understood that if I wanted to be Christian, I'd be a Catholic Christian.
Did you need to be rebaptized when you went to the Catholic Church, or there was no need?
No, so the Anglican baptism, because it uses the same formula in the Trinitarian formula, and it uses the sign of water, it's a valid baptism. So I was baptized when I was like 6 months old. And then when I went to do my first Holy Communion, when I was 7, I did it in the Catholic Church. And then I was confirmed in the Catholic Church. So I did those sacraments in the Catholic Church, and the baptism was valid from the Anglican Church.
That's interesting. It makes me remember always Saint John Henry Newman.
Yeah.
No, whenever I think of Anglican people who has converted to Catholic, He's a doctor of the church,
Yeah.
and we learn a lot from him.
Yeah.
And he's also a very intelligent guy. And I can imagine I know you are also an intelligent woman. And you studied chemistry, science. How did you think about faith in science, faith and reason during those younger years? Because many young people right now cannot see the reconciliation between the faith and science.
Well, for me, it was very beautiful when I studied chemistry. Maybe not at school, but when I was at university, I think it amazed me when you look. Well, chemistry is like the structure of atoms, of molecules, and it amazed me to think there was so much complexity and so much like maths involved, and everything has to be just right. Otherwise, things won't come together and they won't stay together. And I really thought that's quite beautiful, and it's a sign of God working, like the laws of God that are in science. But I guess for me, there wasn't like a difficulty of reconciling faith and science, because they ask different questions. Science is like how, and I think faith is why. It's like in Spanish we would say the para qué, the deeper meaning for things. So science can explain to you how the sun lights the world, but not why the sun is there. I think that's what faith would answer. And I think it's important to have it, because otherwise everything is just chance or luck. And it, I don't know, for me, it doesn't have much sense that everything just be down to chance. There needs to be something more. And for me, I find that in faith.
So you were searching for that something more. You wanted to discover more who God is, what is our faith. So how was your journey to the point of meeting this community, Verbum Day?
So I was sharing that I was part of this Catholic youth group at the university. So when I was in my first year, I was part of this group, and we had a chaplain. So usually in the universities in the UK, there will be like a Catholic chaplain who will support pastorally the students. So in my first year, the chaplain was a priest, but at the end of the first year, he retired. So they were looking for someone to take up this role. And the bishop invited the missionaries, one of the missionaries, to come and be the chaplain at our university. So I met her like in the summer before starting the second year. And then she was our chaplain. So I was at uni for like 4 years as an undergrad. So for 3 years, she was the chaplain. So little by little, I got to know her before I knew Verbum Day, because doing a service like that in the church, the missionaries bring the charism of Verbum Day to what they do. But it's not that they do Verbum Day activities as such. So little by little, I got to know her. And I think also what I like about our mission in the UK is that even though maybe it's one sister who is the chaplain, they would always involve their other sisters, or they would invite brothers from maybe Rome to come and visit and share with us. So it was like really to see that they were part of something bigger. It wasn't just that person doing a job, but it was like a community that they showed us. And I think different things attracted me about their life. Like this missionary was very like friendly. She was very like close to us. It was like not like an authoritative relationship. She would like listen to us, answer our questions, and she was very relatable. She didn't like us to call her sister. She always said, "Please call me by my name." And I found her very open, because I had a lot of questions about my faith, or if I had questions about the teaching of the church that maybe I wasn't in agreement with, she wouldn't be like, "No, you have to believe this," but she would like explain to me, and she would listen to my point of view. And I think also she was very like open. She would invite us to the house, so we would go to the Verbum Day house and pray there. And I really liked the simplicity of the house. I remember being struck by it. Was not that it was poor, because it was clean and tidy, but they didn't have like proper chairs. They had little stools from IKEA, and the chapel was like in the conservatory. And I remember thinking it was a very simple chapel, just wood and not a lot of images, and the tabernacle, and like you could really sense that the importance for them of Jesus, and they tried to transmit that to us. Like, yeah, sometimes as a group of young people, we weren't the most coherent, because we would have like our normal student life, and then we would go to church on Sunday. But also I never felt judged by them, no? So it was like an openness to our lives, what we lived, and to try and bring us to God.
So you saw coherence and integrity in the missionaries who
Yeah.
live the faith, and at the same time, they represent Jesus in many ways through their closeness to the people, through their simplicity as a person, and also the place where they live. So, how did you move from joining all these activities in the campus, little by little, visiting the house of the Verbum Dei missionaries, to really know them more? Like, I don't know if you had been like a disciple during this period or later after. How was it?
So I think for me there was like one moment that I did like a process of changing from being like a uni student to a Verbum Dei disciple. And the reason that happened was like when I finished, I graduated from my uni degree.
Okay.
So in the summer, the missionaries organized a mission trip. So they invited us to go to Philippines for 3 weeks. So I went
That's a
to your
very
country.
beautiful country, huh?
Yeah, it's
Really?
very nice. Yeah. It has a very special place in my heart.
Okay,
The
tell me that.
Philippines.
Tell us that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we went for 3 weeks in the summer of 2010.
2010. Okay.
2010. And well, I really wanted to go to the Philippines because I had heard that it was very beautiful. And I really wanted to go somewhere like far away because I thought it would be the last time that I have a big trip because I was graduating and then I was going to do further study. So I wanted to make the most of my summer. And then I wasn't that keen on doing what they called a mission trip because I didn't want to do mission.
It's like just a vacation trip.
Yeah, I wanted to go on holiday and they were like, we're doing a mission trip. And I was like, oh, but in my country, we were quite reserved. We're like quite shy. So we don't talk a lot about our faith. So I was like, I don't really want to have to like do mission and evangelize. But the thing is, I thought, well, Philippines is a very Catholic country as well.
Okay.
So I don't really have to do any talking about my faith because they already believe in God. So I was like, okay, so I'll go. So I signed up for the mission trip. And for me, it was a very beautiful experience. Very contrasting as well, because I went from, well, I come from a country that is very privileged and I had a very normal, good childhood. Everything that I needed, I had. My parents taught us values, so they didn't spoil us, but I never didn't have what I needed. So to go to a place where you could see that some people really live with nothing, and to see the contrast of rich and poor, was quite shocking as well. It was like a mini vision of the world, because in my country is rich, others are poor, but there in Philippines, you can have a mall where you can buy very luxurious things, and then you have people outside living on the street. So it made me question this reality, how I was living my life and my choices. But I think also something that I really enjoyed in that time was to be free to live my faith and to be Catholic. Because also in my culture is very secular. I had friends who weren't Catholic, and it was hard for me to talk about my faith with them because often I felt like they didn't understand, or that they would judge me, or that they weren't in agreement with many things, or they would make jokes about the church, and then I didn't know how to respond. But in the Philippines, I really felt like I could be myself because I could be Catholic, and I felt like a real joy in living these 3 weeks as like a group, as like a community. It was very beautiful. But one moment there is kind of why I made the step to become a disciple, to be part of Verbum Dei, but also to follow Jesus. One day we were visiting the missionaries because we spent most time with the missionaries, the brothers, because James.
What part of the Philippines?
We were in Manila for
Okay.
most of it. So there was a Scottish brother there called James. So he was there and he showed us around. So he was like our link. But one day he took us to visit the sisters, and they showed us their house, and we were going out to the garden because we were going to go and have lunch. But I remember that the chapel was like to the side, and the door was like half ajar, a little bit open. And so I went into the chapel because I think I had many questions. Like I was
Seeing
different realities, and also we started to be like praying a bit more. Like in the morning we would pray a little bit and we would pray the rosary. So like other things like moving inside of me. So I went into the chapel just to spend a bit of time, to have a bit of, maybe also because we were all together, maybe I also wanted a bit of time on my own. But I remember going into the chapel, and for me it was a very beautiful experience because it was the first time in my life that I really felt that there was like a presence in the chapel. Like I sat down and I looked around and I saw like the typical photo of Mother Mary that we have in the chapels and the cross. And I remember looking at the tabernacle, and I remember it looking back at, well, it felt like Jesus was looking back at me, this gaze. And I really felt a moment in that moment that the love that is in the tabernacle was coming out of it towards me. I really had a moment of feeling very loved, like the love of Christ being poured into my heart. And in that moment, I heard a voice inside that said, Issy, I love you. Can you love me? And I remember that question being very like a strong question, because in that moment I understood it wasn't like, I don't know, love me like, I don't know, a normal person. No, like, well, carry on doing what you're doing and love me. It was like, can you love me? Only me, and dedicate yourself to me. It was like a question that really was like very strong, and that I didn't know how to respond. But that stayed with me. Like in that moment, I have to say I said no. I don't think I want to love you, and I don't think I can. But and then I left the chapel. No, I spent another like week in this mission trip, and then going back home, this experience stayed with me. And so I carried on like practicing my faith, because I thought, if I carry on practicing my faith, that will be enough, and God will leave me alone and he won't ask me to do more. No? But little by little I started to be more active in the community, because I finished my degree and I started doing my doctorate, but I started to participate more in the Verbum Day activities from then on. And then I started to discern my vocation. So that is like the moment that I went from being like a uni student to like a Verbum Day disciple from there.
That was a beautiful journey and life-changing, I would say.
Yeah.
To first see the reality, to touch it, the injustice that there is, and at the same time to share it with Jesus, or Jesus himself sharing his heart with you during that time, asking you also if you can love him. We can understand those words, that dialogue, in many different ways. Like Jesus is asking you for a love that is exclusive to him, or a love that is, love me through these poor people that you have seen, and love me by giving your life to fight for the justice, to fight for good, to live out my mission. And I guess that throughout those times after, you were like reflecting it like Jesus, like Mary, in your heart, who saves, who guards all the words of Jesus in her heart. And little by little, I can imagine that this heart of yours was being enkindled by the fire of the love of Christ, that makes you say yes and yes and yes to do discipleship, to do missionary things, and Verbum Day activities, and all of this. So how did you arrive to that point of wanting to give more, or understanding from the Lord that he is asking you for more?
A little bit like you said with Mother Mary, this question in your heart. I wouldn't say it was that I treasured it in my heart, because for a long time I didn't really like this experience. It was very strong, and it stayed with me. And I think it's like what Jeremiah says, your words, they seduced me. They were more powerful than me. It was like this experience of, really, for a while I tried to forget about it, but these words would come back. They would come back to me. And to begin with, I shared with a missionary about what happened to me, because I wanted her to tell me that was nothing to worry about, and that I didn't have maybe a vocation, and that I could carry on with my life. And obviously she didn't tell me that. So I shared with her, and then for me it was very good, because she was like, don't worry, calm down, because for me it was very strong and quite clear what I thought maybe God was asking of me. It made me feel like quite worried, because I was like, like next week I need to go and become a missionary. And I wasn't ready for that. She's like, no, don't worry, calm down, relax. And what we'll do is we'll do a journey, and you can work on your relationship with God and learn how to pray more and then see where he's calling you. So I think that was very good for me. And then we really did like I think a good process that took time where first of all I learned to pray. So that's why I attended more School of the Word and School of Apostles. And then she invited me like once a week to come and pray with the sisters in their house, and I did that. And then in my last year of my doctorate, the sisters said, well, they invited me to come and live with them to see how they lived. Then I did like a 3-month experience in the Philippines again of like full-time living with the missionaries doing apostolate. And I think what made me say yes in the end is that like every time the community proposed something to me, it made me nervous and I kind of like didn't want to do it. But when I did it, it never seemed like enough. I don't know how to describe. Like it was like, okay, this is good, but what more? Like I haven't. It's not this. It's something more, and it was always something more until I entered the formation course, and it was like learning how to live a missionary life, and I was like, no, this is it. Like this is it. No, full time, all the time, God. And serving, and giving to others. I think that is when I was like realized I was like, oh, I'm in trouble because I actually want to live all my life in this way,
Yeah, that's a Christian life. It's a troubled life. Like we're entering always to the trouble. But a beautiful trouble, joyful trouble to carry the cross and share Jesus and live our faith with him. And what was that specific moment? Was there a specific moment during the formation course, like what you have said, that made you say, this is it? Like, I want to give my whole life to you, or I understood that God is calling me to give my whole life to you. That made you also take the vows.
I think there were many experiences. One thing I remember is during my formation course, 2 of my best friends got engaged to each other. So they called me and they were like, we're getting engaged, we're going to get married. And I remember I was very happy because they're like my best friends. Yeah. And then I remember being like, well, reflecting a little bit in my prayer and thinking my friends started going out after I started to discern my vocation. So they had spent like less time together than I had with Jesus. So when I was in my prayer talking to Jesus, like, wow, really, like they are getting married, and he was like, yep. And I was like, and then I was like, wow, and then you have been in my life longer than my friend had been in the life of my friend, the other friend, the girl. And he was like, yep. And I was like, so now this is like not the same exactly, but it's like a marriage, my life is yours and yours is mine, and it's spent together. And it's like, also because for me it was very strong. I remember praying with like Genesis, and it says this is why a man leaves his house and lives with his wife, to form one flesh. And I remember being like, well, I left because when I went to the formation course, I went from my dad's house. I had been living with my dad, and I went to the formation course, and I was like, oh, it's like now me, I left my dad's house and I've come to live with you in like a kind of marriage. And Jesus was like, yeah, kind of. And then the best thing was, he was like, and just so you know, I don't believe in divorce. And I was like, okay. So I think that was like, I don't know if that's like when I said yes, but then I think that's when I realized like the spousal relationship to which God was inviting me, and that in a sense I had already said yes to, although I didn't realize like at the time. So yeah, for me, from that moment, it was like, my friends have committed to each other. I feel now I am committing to you in like a way that is for my whole life. So I think that was probably a very important moment as well.
Wow, that's good. That like proposal of Jesus to you. Can you imagine? And of course, it didn't stop there. The journey continued, and at the same time, the formation and the deeper discernment also. During those period after the formation course, were there like moments that have made you say yes more in a deeper manner also, or were there moments that you just wanted to give up? This is it, Jesus. This is it. I don't want to continue anymore. Something like that. Just tell us if you have some.
Well, I was thinking to share two moments. So
Okay.
one for me. So after my formation course, I came to Spain to learn Spanish and to live in Loeches, where we are now. And to begin with, I didn't really want to come to Loeches. And I think for me now, looking back, I've spent a lot of my formation in Loeches. This is my 6th year. I did
Okay.
3 years in Loeches. I did 2 in the UK, apostolic years, and then I came back. So now another set of 3 years to study theology. And I think for me, it's been very important to do my formation in Loeches because it's made me realize, it's made more real the fact that we are a universal fraternity. Now, we are an ecclesial family. We have brothers, we have sisters that are priests, that are religious, that are married couples. We are this new form of consecrated life in the church, and that we are from all of the places in the world, all of the countries, and that often has like many dynamics and conflicts and difficulties. And it could be easier to be like, no, I stay in my little part of the world, and I don't complicate my life with this ecclesiality and with this universality. But actually, it's very beautiful because it's the gospel. And I think actually when I left Loeches for my apostolic years, I found it very strange because I missed it. I was like, I miss going to mass and in like having a Verbum Day mass, like the music, to have my brothers, to have my sisters, just I think Loeches is a very special place that sometimes we say can be difficult, and it can be, but I think every place can be difficult, but it's also beautiful. It's also beautiful to know that you have really like sisters and brothers from all over the world, and that they matter to you and their lives are important to you. Like one time I lived with a sister who was unwell. She was waiting to have an operation, and I remember being like upset that she was unwell, and it like hurt me that she couldn't have the operation until much later than she really needed because it was COVID, and so it was difficult to have operations. And I remember thinking, it's because she's my family. Like I have a bigger family now. So I think that was one moment that's very, it's not a moment, no, it's one experience of many years that I think is important, no? To like assume this universal family as your own. And then another moment that for me has been quite important is like the passing of my dad. So my dad passed away nearly 2 years ago. And I think for me it was like a moment to see, for me it's difficult, no? To lose a parent is tough, and there's a lot of grief to process, and sometimes there's anger with God. You can have like, I don't know, ideas that need to be purified, because sometimes you can think, if I'm giving my life to God, something should go well, no? Like you'll look after my family. I wanted to be there for my dad when he was older, but he passed away like very suddenly, so I wasn't able to be there. So like many of like my ideas, to realize that you don't have control, no? Because maybe I was planning to go back and look after my dad when he was older, but that was taken away from me, in a sense. So like a process of purifying my image of God and what is missionary life. It doesn't mean that there won't be difficulties, but that God is with you in them and that he helps you. And I think different things of my process of grief also helped me to strengthen like my commitment to this life. One was really to see that the fraternity assumed me in that. Like when I had to go back to my country, I had a place to stay in the missionary house. They cooked for me. They made sure that I was sleeping. They really cared for how I was. They helped me in the funeral to serve the food, like. And then later, when I came back to Loeches, to feel like the community that I was in also supported me and gave me time to process my grief. And then the last thing I think that helped me was to look also at the life of my dad and to see that he had been very faithful in what he lived. So my dad was married to my mum, and my mum passed away like 15 years before my dad.
Oh, okay.
But he lived those 15 years really dedicated to his family and still dedicated to the memory of my mum. And I found that really beautiful, that he really lived his life faithful to what had been his vocation. And it made me think, if this is my vocation, and this is what I will dedicate my life to. I want to be as faithful as my mum and dad have been. I want to give as much life as my mum and dad have, because in both the funerals of my parents, it really struck me how many people said how much love my parents had given them. Like, they remembered little things about my parents, like moments that they had been there to help them. And I think that's very beautiful, because it reminds you that the love that you give is what stays. And if my parents did that, then I want to emulate them. I want to, from my state of life, give just as much to the world as my parents did in very small, simple acts every day. And so for me, that was it's like a motivation in my life to give the way that my parents did, to be faithful the way that my parents were, in their limits, because they were limited human beings, but who I loved and that I can see were really fruitful in their own lives.
I would say you have been really faithful. As I see you, you are faithful in the studies, in prayer, in mission, as a person, living out this vocation that you have received from the Lord. And as a sister, you enjoy this universality that we have. And I can see that you really value every hermano y hermana, brother and sisters. And it can be felt. So we really are grateful for that love that you are giving to every person, to every one of us, and your fidelity to God above all. In this journey, now you are entering or about to take this very important paso step of taking this perpetual vows. Tell us about what is perpetual vows, and as part of it is the vow of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Tell us some things about it, about them, because maybe some people don't even have an idea of what is vows and what are these three things.
Okay, I will try. It's a bit nervous preparing, but I'm very excited as well for my vows. So as consecrated people, we do a process now of learning what is consecration and living our consecrated life. So in the community, we do 2 years of what is called formation course, when we start to deepen in what is consecrated life. And after that, we do something called our first vows. So we make this profession publicly to live poverty, chastity, and obedience. And we do it for a certain amount of time, so for 2 years. And then as we progress in the community, in our journey, we renew these vows for maybe 3 years, maybe 2 years, until we get to the moment when we decide or we discern, and also the community discerns, if it's something that we will do forever. So these are the perpetual vows, to make this public profession of dedication to God through these vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. So it's a big step, because it's forever.
Yeah. Wow.
Forever.
It's not easy, especially maybe in our generation right now. It's hard to take steps. These decisions of, I think, forever. How can I take a decision that will imply me to live it forever? So.
Yeah, for this reason is a bit nerve-wracking. But I think the beautiful thing is that before you say yes, before you give yourself, God has already given himself totally, So to know that you count with God in your journey, because maybe for us it's impossible, but with God's grace, we can try and collaborate, we can try and make it, because we say that we live poverty, chastity, and obedience to identify us with Jesus, but he is the only one who was truly poor, truly chaste, and truly obedient. We try and come as close as we can. As we can to him. So it's this idea of trying to conform our lives more and more to Jesus. And then you were asking me about how I understand poverty, chastity, and obedience. For me, I think they have developed over time, how I understand them. To begin with, poverty scared me a lot, because I understood it more as just a material thing, or not having things. And because I come from a privileged country, was how do you how do you do that? And then little by little, I think it's really this trust that God is providential, that God looks after you, that God cares for you, And I think it has helped me as well to see in my journey, like also like I was sharing with my family, I've never not had what I needed. Maybe I haven't had all that I wanted. No, because sometimes our heart was like, I want this. but I've had what I needed. No, I've had like a roof over my head. I have had food. But it's this trust, no, this trust in being a child of God and that God looks after you. And also I think a personal poverty, to know that in your limits, in your things that you're not so good at, God can also work. So to let him take over all of your life and to let his life show through your life. No? With all of the vows, this is important, but I think this is poverty, to let Christ be the greatest gift that we have so that it shines through us. And I think this is also chastity, to have Jesus as your biggest treasure, to live from his love so that you can be a channel of his love to others. No, it's not to be so closed off to relationships that you cannot love others, but it's to love people purely. So loving and living with God, this special union of love, of dedication to him, makes you capable to love other people and to dedicate your life to give them the best that you have, which is Jesus. So that would be how I would say I understand chastity. And then obedience, I think sometimes for me is the the most difficult, because I always have my plans or my structures, like my way that I view the world. And I think it's just to be like, someone knows better than you. Someone knows more than you. Someone sees the whole picture, and that someone is God, and to be open to do his will and to search. I think also what is beautiful about obedience is that we live it together. No? So it's really to listen to God, what he wants of you, but also to listen to what God wants of you. It may be the person who is telling you something that you don't want to hear, but to see that God is still speaking and working in that. I think it's a challenge, but also it helps us to live this communion, because as everyone is listening to the Spirit, that is when your priorities become less important and the priorities of the community become what guide you more. I don't know if I live it very well, but that's how I understand it. Hopefully I grow in how I live the vows.
And will continue to grow, of course.
I hope so, yeah.
I really like what you said, that we can see it in that way, that poverty and chastity at the same time. It's like not having anything, but having like the everything, which is God himself. Like, he is our treasure. I don't have silver nor gold, but what I have I will give to you. The word of God, Christ himself, the salvation, and that salvation which first saves us every day, every single day too. That love that we receive from God. And also through that love, we are open to whatever God wants to our lives through our formators, through our responsive ones, we call them, because God speaks to them very clearly too, as we discern together in the community and to us personally directly. So those are poverty, chastity, and obedience in a specific community, which is Verbum Dei, with a specific charism, prayer, the ministry of the word, testimony of life, forming disciples, creating evangelizing community, all of that. That is Verbum Dei missionary, consecrated journey, adventure. And how do you see yourself right now? Or how do you see yourself in the future too? As if you have any dream or vision of what can be after you take your vows?
It's a good question. At the moment, I'm praying about it, because this is my last year in Loeches. So probably next year I will be sent to like an apostolic community, which for me is like a big gift. I think I really enjoy studying. I like to study, and I like to read.
Well, you had the chemistry, you had your doctorate, and then you had your philosophy, you had your theology. I guess you want to study more. I guess you...
No, well, no.
Okay.
What I'm looking forward to is to like be able to give what I have
All
received.
right.
I think the last 2 years of theology, everything comes together, and you suddenly see, it's like this can use it here, this can I use it there, this I can use it here, and I don't know if I have like specific dreams. No, well, I don't know if I want to share exactly where I want to go in case anyone is listening from the government, but I think I have this desire to give, no, and I think it's in the book of Solomon, I think, that says, what I have received and learnt diligently, I will give freely and abundantly. I think it's this, no, to recognize that you have received a lot, and it really is a privilege. Like, it's very necessary for us to study because of our formation and our mission, but also it's a privilege. Like, many people cannot dedicate so many years of their lives to study. And if I have received this, is to be able to give to others, to be able to help them to grow in their journey with God. And I think that is something that I would like to do, to help each one to grow in their relationship with God, to encounter God alive, for it to really touch their lives and for them to feel God speaking to their realities. And yeah, I would love to do lots of. I think this Easter had a very beautiful experience because I was studying for the synthesis, so I wasn't doing like an apostolate in Easter, but I was in the spirituality center washing the dishes once every meal, no? Or one meal a day. And I loved hearing the testimonies at the end of Easter because I remember being touched because they were from all of the realities, from the silent retreat, from the young people, from the youths, from the people in the convivencia. And I remember feeling how beautiful it was that each person had been touched, and each person had had an experience with God. And I think for me, it was very freeing to understand from God, wherever you go and whatever group of people you dedicate yourselves to, because I've spent a lot of time with the young people, there will be fruit because I am always working. If you give the word, it will touch people's lives. So like this openness to go to all, no? And recognize there will be fruit because God is the one who does the growth. No, so to be open to do your little part, even though it seems like little, like washing the dishes. You could, like, no one knows that you are there, but still that small service is having an impact.
Even washing the dishes.
Washing the dishes
behind the scenes.
Yeah, to not be the protagonist, to live our mission as a service. I think that is something that I learned in Easter, or something that touched me this Easter.
That's good. You have that desire to give and give and give what you have received freely, and that necessity of the Word of God, because many people need it. It reminds me of Jaime Bonet, that he also has this passion and urgency to. We are receiving a lot of things here. We are receiving a lot of Word of God. And there are a lot of people who are hungry. It's based on Amos also, prophet. And go out there and give what you receive. It reminds me of that while you are sharing this. You have that spirit too. And talking about Jaime Bonet, do you have any memory of Jaime Bonet? Have you met him? Do you have any word of the founder that really struck you and you live personally?
So I didn't actually meet Jaime. I feel like I had a journey in my relationship with Jaime, because when I was a disciple, I heard a lot about him because he was still alive. And actually, once someone suggested that I go to Spain to meet him, and I was like, no, I don't really want to meet Jaime, because I think it was like a culture clash, no? Because the Spanish are very direct, and the English are you say things
proper,
proper, yeah. So when people would talk about Jaime, I would be a bit scared, because I'd be like he always seemed like a very strong character that was like, oh, you don't have enough disciples, or you're not doing enough mission. Like, it was very for me very strong, and I didn't want. I remember being like, I don't want to meet him because he will tell me off. I had this image of Jaime. So in my formation course, because we were in the UK in the summer after my first year, we came to Spain, and the idea was to get to know the roots of Verbum Dei, but also to come and meet Jaime. But unfortunately, he passed away 2 days before our flight. So we never met
Wow,
him.
2 days.
Yeah, we never met him, but we were in his funeral.
Okay.
So it was like, I don't know, it was a very weird sensation to be in the funeral mass with people from all over the world who obviously knew him very well and were really touched and very upset that he had passed away. And I think for me, it was like a moment of seeing how much he had touched so many people and how important he was in our community. And to start to appreciate what he had been and what he had done. And then something that I think changed my relationship with Jaime, that helped me a lot, was that summer we did our spiritual exercises in Sete Aguas, and they preached to us based on the second letter of St. Paul to Timothy, and the theme was revive the charism that is in you.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember praying because it was my first year of my formation course, so I felt very little or very small. And I remember asking, but how can I revive a charism that I don't know if I have yet, like it's like still growing in me. And so I remember in one particular moment of my prayer being like, I don't think I can pray with the second letter of Timothy because I'm not good enough yet to pray with the second letter of Timothy. So I prayed with the first one, the first letter of Paul to Timothy. And there is a passage that says, don't let people underestimate you because you are small. And I think in my prayer in that moment, I really understand that it was Jaime saying that to me. It was very beautiful, like to understand him saying, you also are like my child. No, you are also like the heir of this charism. You may be young and you may be part of a new generation who haven't had this contact with me, but that doesn't mean you don't have my spirit. And that doesn't mean you don't have my charism. And for me, it was very beautiful because it changed this image that I had of Jaime of maybe being someone who would have told me off to someone who like encouraged me and was like, no, you can live this mission. You can live this charism and you will be part of the generation that continues to offer it to the world. So from there, I think I felt a lot more closeness to Jaime. And then I shared with other missionaries who shared with me their stories. And I think you see from those stories, I like have an image of a Jaime who's very human, who's very real. And also they've shared with me moments that he asked them for forgiveness, like a humble person as well. Even though he had a lot of fire and a lot of strength, that he wasn't too big to ask for forgiveness when he felt he'd done something wrong. That he really listened to everyone, their opinion, even though he obviously had very clear, like his objectives. It was like a very open person. I think I appreciate that more now that I have a bit more time in the community.
That's great. That's very encouraging for us new generations too. And well, we would love to continue sharing with you, but we're ending our time for today, for this time. Maybe someday we can invite you again. But do you have any parting message? Do you have any message to the young people today, to everyone actually, and also to those maybe who are thinking about the missionary life, or in general for all the Christian people?
Yeah, I was reflecting before the interview, like on my journey, and I think something that really touched me was like to live with all your heart, whatever your vocation is. No, to be married, to be a priest, to be religious, to be consecrated. When you really open your heart and let God fill it, you can live with like a joy, and to live from your heart in a way that maybe, especially in my Occident, my Western society, we live a lot from the head. But I think to open ourselves to live from our heart, to live from this experience of God's love, to be open, to be channels of that love, and to live with joy, and to give all of yourself, no, and also to try. This is something that really helped me in my journey when I was like scared about taking steps. Someone told me, if you don't try, you will never know. Try, because otherwise maybe you will regret it. No, I think life is very short, and it's best not to live it with regrets. So to live it from your heart and let your heart guide your decisions more than your head.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thank you so much, Issy Kirby.
Thank you, Jello.
It has been a pleasure to learn from you.
Thanks for having me.